Okay. There it goes. So as I said, we're going to try to get through developing the calendar of the soul picture. And the first thing that we want to do is that the first image that we work with is the feeling perception of the class. Now, did you all do a class study this year for your class?
On my class when they were entering first grade.
So,
yeah.
Okay. And that's not necessarily because it's basically you, whatever your impression of the class is, and then you want to, the image should be from nature or human archetype. So you say an image that, what are, like they may be from the mineral world, like mountains or water or wind or something like that might be an impression, or maybe from the plant kingdom, or maybe from the animal kingdom, or the human archetypes, like the royal family and some kind of archetype as opposed to not a policeman or a doctor, but a human archetype, and maybe some combination of that. So what we want to do first is kind of develop an image of that nature about your class.
So I have, I do have an image. It might not be the right type of image that I should have, but also my class has shifted this year, so a lot of the children I was having trouble with are gone.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 new students and 4 leaving.
Okay.
So I think that's really going to shift what the class is like.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this image of kind of started off the year once I got to know them a little bit. It was like we were all on a ship, and the children were like, it was like a pirate ship, and the children were on this pirate ship, and they were trying to direct the boat in the direction they wanted the boat to go in. And I was supposed to be the captain, and there wasn't a captain.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just, it felt to me like they really just wanted to get to the treasure without doing the work or the will work.
Mm-hmm.
So toward the end of the year, it kind of shifted to where I felt like finally they were able to sit down and enjoy the ride of the boat, while I stepped in as the captain, some still trying to take charge, but not as much as they were.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, that sounds like you've modified the image. So what we're going to do is synopsize that image here, hopefully.
Okay.
So maybe we can do it verbally and then we can write it. So how would you say that in as many words that would maybe fit in that space?
Right. So we could say, is there a term for like when pirates try to, take over a ship? There's
the same thing as mutiny. We want to look at it now, though. What do you think it is now?
What it is now?
Mm-hmm. So it still may be a pirate ship seeking the treasure, maybe more than paying attention to the journey.
Yeah.
But maybe though that but you have a role now that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
We can say first the crew of a pirate ship would be. You could write that down.
Yeah.
So it's like the crew of a pirate ship. And I heard you said seeking.
It was almost like they were just so reckless that they wanted to get to the treasure, and without, trying to work their way there. Like one child would steer the boat one way, and another child would steer.
So they weren't caring for the ship together.
Yeah.
Seeking the treasure without
direction, maybe.
Yeah, direction, and we meant to stay with the metaphor, steering the ship without direction to steer the ship.
Okay.
So that would be the general picture of the class. And what we want to do with that picture is we want to now modify it to include a relationship with the curriculum. And the curriculum this year, as we know, can be expressed in terms of this being able to analyze the whole with unities of correspondence that they developed last year. That's basically what the curriculum we want them to do. We want them to be able to take these, analyze the wholes in terms of the unities of correspondence like they developed last year, like the phonemes and the numbers as whole numbers. And so if we want to plug that into there a little bit, maybe we can even look at that. What aspect of the life of a pirate is that? You know, you have the treasure you already mentioned. We have the work of steering the ship. So how do we fit that into the metaphor? Is that effort seeking the treasure? Is that effort steering the ship?
It's effort in.
You met my wife, Karen?
No. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Tammy.
I'm Karen.
Nice to meet you. It's effort in steering the ship. There's something.
See you later.
Okay.
There's something about they want to get to the treasure, but they can't do the work.
And now the treasure would be what in terms of curriculum?
Good question.
I mean, is it those capacities to write and to do arithmetic out of their? I mean, is that the treasure, or is the treasure something else? Is it a social thing they're seeking for treasure? Maybe the treasure is something other than the curriculum, and steering the ship is the curriculum.
Yeah, it feels deeper to me than the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Socially, the children were pretty. There was a lot of conflict. Which also, I think, in part had to do with me, with my. Once I sat down to really listen to their concerns, things shifted for the better. But there was a lot of uneasiness amongst a lot of the children because.
I mean, is the treasure? I mean, are they ultimately seeking? Is it a social element?
I think they're seeking. Yeah, I think they're seeking like some kind of peace socially.
Okay. The formation, like one thing, our goal is the formation of a learning community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean that's a lot of what. And once you have that formation of learning community, then that does become, you know, a more comfortable place for all the children. So they're seeking. So the treasure, we can say, is maybe the formation of a learning community. That's social cohesiveness.
Okay.
But that takes. That takes formation. That takes being willing to follow the rhythm of the day and having directed. So, and maybe that comes from you, as you say, more than them. So we have those relationships between the rhythm and content of the day being the way that they are going to be able to achieve that that learning community or that social cohesiveness. So we can add that. So, but let's talk about that in terms of the image, though. So we can just say that we already said it to a certain degree they need, the crew needs to see that acquiring the treasure means working hard at steering the ship. And we can put that here. This is the next one.
My goodness. Acquiring the treasure means working, what do we say? Working
Just together to steer the ship.
cohesively, right? Spell cohesive.
H-E-S-I-V-E.
C-O-A, yeah.
Now we don't want to get too far from the image too quickly. Is it already starting?
Am I pressing too hard, maybe?
No, it wasn't. I put a new one in there. Crew needs to see that acquiring the treasure requires them working cohesively to steer the ship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Means working cohesively to steer the ship. Right, okay.
Now, one thing you always need to do with your image is you need to look at that image in terms of the flow of the year. And so, and usually the image they use, there's a number of different images of the flow of the year. Usually they use a plant image. And so basically, in the winter, you have the autumn where the plant, the seeds, well, let's go over the summer. In the summer, the fruit ripens, and basically then it falls to the ground, and the seeds go into the ground in the autumn, and then they kind of are nurtured in the winter soil, and then of course toward early spring, you get the seedlings, and you get the growth of the plant, and the cycle goes all the way over, and it also related to so you have. In the human being, we go out in the summer. Our third forces go out and into the cosmos. And then as the fall comes, we draw them in, and they're sort of in our head region in the autumn, in the area, in the time of Michaelmas and whatnot, in Halloween, they're in our head region. And then they go into our heart in the winter. And then they begin that process of coming, they go into our limbs in the spring, and then they come back out for the summer. And so when we're working with the children, we think about that. We think about the fact that the etheric forces are available for the children in the winter because they come into the heart forces, they come into them. And as we go into the summer, then they kind of go into the limbs pretty quickly in the spring as the things start popping up. And then they basically go quickly back up through the plant and back out for the summer. So that's why we go home in the summer, because we can't expect them to do much at that time. And so when we look at the curriculum, we want to think about this moving of the ship. So developing this capacity to steer the ship and to realize this treasure, how is that going to be affected in a seasonal sense? What can we bring? What can you as the captain, in a sense the captain looking at, you can think of that as the water or the ocean that you're on, that whole seasonal flow. It's going to have different things. And during the year, you want to bring out different qualities in the crew to be able to steer it. So what quality of the crew do you need to bring out to do this in the fall? What quality in the winter time, et cetera.
Okay.
So as captain, what are you going to be seeking from the crew at the beginning of the year in Michaelmas time?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, let's think of the water in the different times. Say, for instance, the water in the fall. Let's say it's a little bit more stormy.
I'm going to take notes on that. But should I?
Well, I mean, you can take your notes either way. Or you can take them here too. So we're going to think about the water. And the water, say in the autumn, is stormy. And it sort of moves out of its storminess through the autumn into some doldrums. Doldrums is when the winds die down. You have this windy kind of thing in the autumn, and then you have the doldrums are kind of more windless, more calm in the wintertime. And then maybe we're going from the activity of the wind, and in the fall, toward the spring, we're going into the activity of the water itself. The currents pick up. The currents pick up, and then we have to steer. Now we have to be ready to steer in these currents, so that we can come to something fruitful, like the treasure in the winter. So, if those are the waters that you're selling, what do you want the crew to be like in each of those?
The water is choppy in the fall.
And more because of the wind. Yeah, the wind.
So things need to. My crew would need structure.
Okay.
Right.
They would need structure to bring out what in them.
To ease them, to ease their.
What do they need? What is their emotional energy have to be to achieve what they need to achieve as shipmates and as steerers of a ship?
To me, I just think their emotional energy needs to be that they need to be at ease, that they need to come in and know that they have a rhythm and a structure, and that the teacher is.
And is that what they need in overall, or is that what they need specifically for these choppy waters?
That's what they need overall, but more so when the waters are choppy.
Mm-hmm. And you're the only problem with this is rather than thinking about them, you're thinking about what you need to do right now.
Right.
You're saying, I need to make them at ease.
Sorry, it's been a long year of working to do to change this.
That's what I'm saying. So but we need to we're trying to get an impression of them more than we are trying to get it.
Okay.
So, think of them, they're pirates on a ship. Who do they need to be? As pirates on a ship. Just to achieve this task.
Working hard.
Okay, they need to be working hard, focused,
Yeah.
any of those kind of things, diligent, whatever.
Right.
That's what we need from them. Because it's their calendar of soul. So you're saying I need them to be focused and diligent in this initial time.
Okay.
And then we're at a point now where the waters are calm, where the doldrums, and we need to be able to live in that for a while. So what do the pirates themselves, what quality do the pirates themselves need to have to be able to, because what could happen in the doldrums? They could get anxious, they could get impatient, they could get, and so what do we need from them? They're going to be diligent and focused.
Working busily, like
that's what we want them to do.
yeah.
And how do we want them to be? How do they achieve that busy workingness? What's the inner experience they're having?
I don't know, I just keep thinking about their inner peace with the social dynamic, and with that.
You're jumping ahead. That's the thing.
Okay.
We're trying to get the image fleshed out. You're jumping to the solution that you want to get out of it. We want to see what the image directs us, and not let our directions. Because we got the metaphor of the pirates, and we got the metaphor. So we won't think of these as pirates, and they're on the sea. And what are these pirates? Because this is we're trying to get wisdom from this, not put wisdom into it.
Sure.
The whole point of this is to get an image that's going to reveal something to us. So we want to stay with the metaphor and just say, okay, the pirates are in the doldrums. What would pirates be like in the doldrums? They want to get to the treasure, the pirates, but Here they are in the doldrums.
Right, so they want to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
They want to feel safe.
They want to feel safe. Okay, they want to feel safe. So what's the quality they have? They are then. You keep.
Are you
yeah.
looking for something? Are you already have in your head, don't
no,
you?
but because you keep on telling. Well, see, this is a quality they have, which is the children are diligent.
Yeah.
But then you're saying the children want to feel safe. That's not the same thing. It's like I can say the children are courageous. The children, what is a human being experiencing internally? You keep on telling me what you want to make for them. That's what you keep on doing. And you have to, I mean, what is the human being themselves experiencing is what I want to know. What are they experiencing? You know, and if you were in the doldrums, not thinking the children at all, and you were a pirate, what would be your experience?
That I would be scared.
Okay, then you would be scared. Okay. So this is
Or I
scary
would-
times.
Right, or I would want to.
So if you were scary, what would you have to be inwardly to overcome being afraid?
Brave and true.
Okay. Brave. So this is a time that would have to be. You want to see the thing is you want to
I mean,
think
I
about
don't know.
this.
Honestly, if that was me, I'd probably think it was an awesome adventure, and I'd have a great time with it. But
Okay, so that could be something. That could be the children. I mean, that could be a quality. They would have to, in some way, appreciate the doldrums. To appreciate. They would have to a time of appreciation. It could be, you know, when they're appreciating the quiet. Maybe, I mean, either that or patient.
patient. Okay.
I mean, they could be. I mean, if you're in the doldrums and you might be impatient because you want to get to the treasure, you know, so you might want to be patient. That might be the inner quality you need to be in the doldrums without, you know, feeling unsafe or scared or wanting something else. Because the focus is they want the treasure. And we're saying they're in the doldrums. We want them to. The reason I'm asking you the positive quality, because our whole point here, we said, what do they need to be to steer the ship to get to the treasure? That's why we're focusing on the positive qualities. They need to be diligent when the waters are stormy. They need to be patient maybe when the waters are in the doldrum. So we want to know what they need to be good steerers of the ship.
It does feel like they're impatient.
And so
they
we
need
want in
patience.
that time some patience. So
Yeah.
in the wintertime, you're going to be looking then at that quality of patience. Diligence during the stormy time, patience in the doldrums. Okay? And then we can go to the time. Now the currents are moving. And so the currents are moving now. We're getting toward Candlemas. And what needs to happen inwardly for them once they come out of the doldrums and the currents are moving. They want to get to the treasure. Now they have these currents that are moving. The whole focus is still how we're going to get them to steer the ship, so they can be successful and not end up being frustrated, and therefore not experience that social cohesiveness.
Seems like a time when they would.
You can also look when this was when the energy etheric is in the heart. Now the etheric is in the limbs.
Yeah, it seems like a time when they would benefit from doing, right? Maybe from rowing the ship.
So you can say inwardly we can say then they need a sense of engagement.
Okay.
So we don't want to say what they do. We want to say what we want to encourage in them.
Right.
You want to encourage them a capacity to be engaged. A sense once those currents start moving, they got to engage.
Mm-hmm.
They got to come out of that place of patience to a place of engagement. If we want to get them to achieve that. Yeah. And then finally,
Productive.
Well, remember that is not what we want them to be.
Right. So hard.
Well, engagement works.
Okay.
I mean, inwardly they need to have a sense of engagement or a purpose even. They
I
need
feel
to
like
have a
I've
sense of
lost
purpose.
sight of
That's why, yeah, we got to go. We're steering the ship. Down here, we're trying to ask ourselves in each of the periods in the year, what are you going to need? What are the children have? What is the experience of the children need to be so they can steer the ship, therefore be able to get the treasure and not experience frustration. That's the whole flow that we have here. And then, of course, the last thing is that they arrive, they are successful, and what quality do they need to have at that point for that to be a positive outcome. The fruit is in hand, the treasure is there. There it is, right there on the island. What do we want to be their inner experience so that what we have achieved doesn't fall apart in conflict and whatnot? Or that somehow we don't actually make it to the shore.
oh gosh.
You have a sense of what? An inner capacity of some sort. Inner emotional capacity that allows this outcome.
Diligent, engaged.
We are diligent, patient, engaged. And this is the fourth season.
This is the spring?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what it is, spring and summer. Yeah, because you sort of have an epiphany, you have Candlemas to spring, and then you have spring to summer, really, in our school year. Treasures at hand, so we're at the end of the year, but maybe right now you're out to spring, this is after winter break, and spring is coming back, and you're going to be moving on to the spring toward Pentecost, that period of time. And what do we need from the children toward that end of the year to really solidify, to ripen the fruit. Right. To ripen the fruit, which is acquiring the treasure. And in this process, it's feeling perception, so you don't want to think about it too much. Because it's what you want to really, what we're really trying to do is what do you really feel in response to that question about, that image of the spring and the pirates moving to the treasure thing. I'm on the island.
It's just excitement.
Excitement. That's what they're going to experience, excitement.
Yeah.
And how is the excitement going to then serve them to really take up the treasure without something going awry, without the fruit maybe falling off the tree too soon,
devoured,
not allowing it to ripen, but to eat it too soon or whatever.
Yeah.
So excitement is going to be there. So they're going to have this excitement now for the treasure. So what do we need to happen for that excitement to bear fruit? Right. But we can put excitement.
Well, we already have patience.
We can put excitement. I mean, excitement is fine. It's just that we want to make sure that that's an excitement that is positive.
Right.
So excitement is a good thing. It's a positive emotion. It doesn't necessarily. If they've had this experience through the year, if they've come to this by virtue of diligence, patience, engagement, then excitement, this would probably be the kind of excitement that would be necessary. Okay, so we'll just go with that as the image. So what we sort of have written. So what we sort of have here is we have an image and we have an emotional quality through the year that is carrying the image. So I'm going to give you the example. I'm going to give you my example now.
Okay.
Because I don't want to give it to you that you finish yours, of course. So, you know, so here's my calendar of the soul in terms of those 4 seasons that I had for my block when I had my last 2nd grade. And so, you know, I had courage, respect, and reverence, purpose, and fulfillment that came out of my image. My image was actually of a stag that was had its hind hooves caught in brambles. And out of that image, these were my qualities of the soul that I needed for each of the
Okay.
for the year.
That's the word I was probably looking for.
You know, so a sense of courage, a sense of respect and reverence I thought they needed in the wintertime, a sense of purpose, and a sense of fulfillment is what I wanted them to have. And the other thing about this was a little bit different because I was leaving them, and I told them right after this part, we had an assembly, and I let them know that I wasn't coming back to be their teacher. So it was a little bit different year then. And I realized about this time of the year, I realized I was not going to come back.
Okay.
The process of what usually would happen here, but I don't think we're going to be able to do that. I mean, you might be able to work on it a little bit more on your own to really integrate. I don't think you weren't here when I did talk to you how to do 3-folding, what I call 3-folding. Yeah. And so what I usually do with an image, I do this process called 3-folding, which takes the image from just an image to how it's connected to the curriculum, and then in the end how it's connected to the 2-fold and 3-fold lesson, time, space, arts, and willing, feeling, and thinking. So I actually take the image that we get all the way through to that. So it is informing the actual lesson.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a long process, which you might not have time for today, but I would suggest that you try to work it out, talk a little bit about how it's done, and then because it can really enrich your understanding of how these things are related, how like this is the curriculum, and if you can like in this case I recognize that what I recognized in this situation was my stag was caught behind hooves in the brambles, and since this was the period where they were moving from the correspondences from the whole to the correspondences, I recognized that the hind hooves told me what aspect was part of the stag and what was not part of the stag, and like in how. So I looked at my curriculum. I said, if I'm doing math, and I want to find out the parts that belong to math, like number sense belongs to math. The part that doesn't belong to the brambles are the arithmetic algorithms, because they're arbitrary. And what's what happens? The children get stuck over here in the algorithms, and they don't develop proper number senses. So number sense, they have number sense, and just emerges out of its own. The capacity to free themselves from this is natural, and this is not a problem. They get kind of stuck in it if number sense is lacking. And then I looked at that in terms. And then I had word sense and phonetic blend. So I'm saying that I took this picture, and I started drawing out my elements based on my concept of these are the polarities that are in the feeling perception. And that's the first thing you got to ask yourself: what are the polarities? Now, well, the polarities here are the hind hooves and the brambles. And then you ask yourself, well, what's the connection between the brambles and the image? The brambles I recognize are what is separate from the stag, but the hooves are connected to the stag. So by doing that process, I got this information that I could then apply to my curriculum. And that's the kind of process that we usually work through after we get the image, you know. And you can maybe take those home and try to work through that a little bit yourself. And give you still have some extra copies of this.
Okay.
And you can take it, write that synopsis of that image we have, and just kind of go through the process.
I don't know about my image. I had a really hard time finding an image for them.
Well, we just went through an image. I mean, the one we just did.
Yeah, no, I know that. I'm
Oh, you
saying
think-
I don't like my image.
Oh, you don't like it?
It's hard.
Well, we
Like-
kind of went through this process. If something else comes to you, then just do it. But the whole idea is to have your feeling perception of the class related to the curriculum and then to the seasonal flow. So that's just the process you go through. And if you feel like that needs to be
It
different.
should be like satisfaction.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah, you want
gratification or
you
something.
want them to have a sense of satisfaction at that point of getting to the treasure, you know. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you want to do, and then you can have that as your focus of the year in terms of how you bring things.